All right, g'day. Welcome back to Collectivitis, podcast where we dissect the disease that is collectivism. My name's Pietro. This is Floyd. How you doing, Floyd?
What's up? Yeah, I'm good, mate. How about yourself?
We're a little deflated in our energy. Usually we film these on the weekends. This is a weekday. We've been slogging at work all
Mm,
day.
mm.
But we had to be here because there is something really exciting to talk about. So we're here and we can't wait to get into it. How are you first before we dive right into it, Floyd?
On the grand scheme of things, yeah, I'm doing well. As far as like got a political break that I don't really think I've ever gotten before. As far as like someone who kind of matches my politics got elected to a fucking presidency, no less. So I mean that's pretty cool. But apart from that, yeah, man, summer's coming in, so gotta love the weather until it gets like 35 degrees.
If you look at it on paper, what's happened so far this year? Okay, so the voice referendum didn't get up.
Mm,
Uh, Dan Andrews resigned.
mm.
Um, and then now this, which was probably the most important of the things. Is there anything else that I'm missing? Any small wins that we might have had? Commonwealth Games got cancelled. I guess that's kind of
Yeah,
a win.
yeah. I
Uh,
guess, yeah.
but in a roundabout way. But this
Because
one's
I don't have
big.
to buy a ticket to it, so
I don't have to pretend to give a fuck about the Commonwealth
You
Games for
got-
like a month. Watch cyclists or whatever the fuck they do. Um, Swimming. Oh, what a horrible sport.
No,
Good.
I love the swimming part of the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games, though. You get really revved up for a track and field. That's never been my thing, but the swimming, that's when I'll watch the TV for it. I'll absorb the ads for that.
Oh, I guess we do disagree on something after all. But the biggest of all the things this year is the one that we really wanted to talk about, which is um, the one that's kind of been on everyone's radar a little bit for the last year when he first popped up on the scene, and that's Javier Milei, the Argentine libertarian running for president in Argentina. Obviously, he's Argentine, and the reason that it's sort of popped up on everyone's radar was because it looked like he might win. And I remember Max first brought it up. He was talking about it. He was polling at like, I can't remember, 20% or something, which, is not enough to win anything. And he certainly grew from that in the time afterwards. But 20% at the time alone was like, you know, shit. That's a lot for a libertarian candidate who's running as a complete full-blown libertarian. And that's what he was running on. He's running on an anarcho-capitalist, maybe not platform because it's hard to enact those policies with the state as it currently exists, but he describes himself as an anarcho-capitalist libertarian. His policies were, completely get rid of the central bank and dollarize the economy, which again we can talk about whether that's realistic or not. And so in kind of a shock first round because he was favorite by the time there was the first round of elections, and in a shock he didn't win those when we were all got really excited about it, and I thought we were about to get some real libertarian blue balls about this guy. And then thankfully yesterday the news came through that he did beat the what was it, the center right guy that was left. Was it center right Massa,
No, I thought the guy was like part of the regime, like the left regime.
Yeah. Maybe he was center left because that's the guy that was the incumbent
Yeah,
government, and
yeah.
he was like the economics minister or something. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's right because the
Yeah.
yeah the right the reason Malay was, I think, likely to win in the end was because the center right party got knocked out in the first round,
Yeah.
and therefore the assumption is that their voters would jump on a libertarian
Yeah.
rather than the center left. So that's
And
sorry,
I,
yes,
I,
that's
I
right.
heard on a podcast that he was endorsed by them as well. So I don't know how true that is, but we'll
I
just
heard there
yeah,
was some sort of agreement between the two to
yeah.
make sure that Malay got in, because they would prefer Malay. So in the end, the even the center right sort of establishment preferred him over the center left. So what are your thoughts? What did you do to celebrate Javier Malay winning in Argentina?
I got one of my flags behind me. I put it up at the front of my window. You couldn't see it, of course, from like my window, but I didn't want to put it outside. I thought that might be inviting a bit too much kind of drama. Not that anyone would know what the fuck it is, but just in case that one person kind of went out there and I got a broken window or something. But yeah, I kind of get it there. So if you were trying to scope my house out to break into it, you'd at least see it. But yeah, that's all I really did. I kind of just felt a bit better about my beliefs, which is always good. You know, what's worse than a libertarian who isn't, you know, up their ass about their own beliefs?
Yeah, and I think, well, certainly not up his ass. In fact, speaking of asses, he has several quotes about shoving the state up their own ass or whatever. He's certainly flamboyant in the way he directs his messaging. I think it's also kind of a win for the sort of brand of libertarianism that I aspire to, and I don't know if you aspire to this as well, but the idea that we're too we downplay our messaging way too much. We try to, in general, when and not just here, they do it in the US as well. There's kind of been the soul searching of the US Libertarian Party, as though that portion of the party that wants to see itself as very legitimate and very trustworthy and very believable, and kind of wants to almost fit in as a part of the state, as this part of it, and fix it from within. And then I think my view is that we are completely incompatible with the state, and should run on that, should run on this. And I mean, if you haven't watched the Milei kind of interviews, do so, because he says it better than I could, and he says it in Spanish with subtitles. But he's swearing, he's calling them leftist pieces of shit. He's saying they're trash. You can't deliberate with them. You have to get rid of all of them. They are a cancer. They are a malignant cancer, and all this language here, which I think the sort of sophisticated and kind of, I don't know, the well-to-do side of even libertarian politics wouldn't veer anywhere near, because of fear of well, we don't want to be lumped in with the crazies. Well, I mean, look what happened in Argentina. He's as crazy as they come. He's as crazy as they come, and he won. So
dare I call them the champagne libertarians? But I get it, yeah, because you say that all the time. People kind of like, oh, we don't want to alienate anyone, and it's well, this is one of the most offensive kind of views in the current left-right paradigm, or the current acceptedness of Overton window, if you want to use that word. This is the most outrageous thing you can say. Communism is more acceptable than like outright libertarianism, not even going into anarchism or anything like that. You're going to be hated. Stop pretending to be everyone's bloody friend.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he did, right? He's hated, and I think he's like, you're going to be hated. They give you this, they make you perceive that you're going to be hated more than you actually are, because in the end, I think Milei is more loved than he is hated, and the thing that hates Milei more than anything is like the media class and the state class, and they will be very loud, and you'll hear that you're hated very often. But in the actual, the zeitgeist of the general population, you're probably, well, you have to be more liked than you are hated to win this thing. And whereas at the moment, I think Dave Smith had a debate a little while ago about like the direction of libertarianism, and he talks about how it's a legitimate point, it's a legitimate strategy to have, to be kind of non-controversial and to try and just sort of appeal to a majority of people. It's a legitimate strategy to have when you're a 30-40% party, and you're trying to make that final leap just to get into power. You just need to convert some 10% of people that you're better than the other guy, and you can get in, and then you can make the actual changes. But here in Australia, certainly in the US, New Zealand's a little bit better, but even New Zealand, they're nowhere near 30%. We're a 3, 4, 5 at best percent party, and what Massa won with his original was like 30 something% of the vote, of the primary vote, between the center right, center left, and him. I don't think 30 something% of Australians know what a libertarian is, or know what the word means, or have even heard the word. So it's defeats the purpose for me to do this kind of understated, trying to be legitimate, trying to be professional message when we really need to uh, alert a whole bunch of people. And I think Australians generally, the average Australian is open to the message of like, fuck the government, fuck the
Yeah,
left,
yeah.
fuck all of these.
Well,
Like
isn't that? I thought that was an inherent Australian thing to do. Like one of the things I always loved about being an Australian in Australia is flicking your lights when you see the cops or you see the speed camera and letting everyone know. I mean that's libertarianism,
yeah,
because you're saying, look, the monopoly on power, if your monopoly on force, if you want to get very technical on it, is up ahead. Don't let them monopolize you. But in more, I guess, less champagne kind of terms, it's like, hey, the people who are kind of suppressing you for bullshit like speeding or smoking or drinking while driving, drinking while driving, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but if it's within reason, but whatever, fuck it, don't I'm trying to dig myself out of this hole here.
yeah, you're
anyway
digging deep there.
anyway digging out of this hole, fuck it, you should be able to drink while driving as long as you're not harming anyone. I'm making that stand right now. Fucking hate me for it, fuck the TAC, all that type of shit. There we go, I'm out of it. But yeah, it's an inherently kind of Australian thing, and I think it's, I don't know if it's communicating across or getting people out of that type of that slump of like liberal Labor, or whether it's just like left or right, conservative, liberal. Just something about it just needs to kind of push. And I think what we see, I know we listen to a lot of the same podcasters and YouTubers, is when they all talk about their stuff, it comes from Ron Paul. And Ron Paul did the same thing, and he ignited a generation of people to get out and do it, which I hope Javier Milei is. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I hope that's what he's going to do in Argentina as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm with you. I don't know. I'm all for bold libertarian messaging. I don't know if drink drive to your heart's content is the exact messaging I'd go with.
As long as you're not hurting anyone,
But
that's
the sentiment
why
is
I don't
correct.
run
Like
for parliament. There we go. If you want to know why, that's why I'll never do it.
the comment that you're essentially making when you flash your headlights is, "Hey, stranger, who I don't know, I care more for you than I do than for the authoritarian state that I know behind me." Right? Like I care more for just the average Joe, and so that sentiment, that you care more for the stranger than you do for the state, kind of implies this anti-state mentality among Australians, and that's what we got to tap into, right? And I think there's a possibility for that. Maybe it needs to be spelled out a little bit for Australians. Like they need to understand that being anti-state also means, you've got to cut welfare and you've got to do these things, because on the whole, that's part of what props up the state, and that's part of what keeps people in poverty, and it's part of what, the excuse they have for it taxing us to death. That they need that help with that step, but the instinct of the average, the Australian, the stereotypical Australian, I think, is correct in that. On Javier Milei's messaging, I thought something fun to do would be to read some of our favorite quotes from Javier Milei, obviously translated from Spanish, because neither of us speak Spanish. As far as I'm aware, I don't think you can give them in the original.
C. Burrito, taco, marijuana. Yeah, that's about it.
Cinco de Mayo, yeah. Where I didn't realize. No, we do speak the language. It turns out. Maybe we will do this in the original Spanish. I'll let you go first with a quote. I suspect we may be doubling up with the quotes. We didn't check beforehand, whether we have the same ones. But you go first.
So I have two short ones and one long one. I will read the short ones. So the first one I got is, for me, the state is an enemy, as are the politicians who live off it.
That's the short one.
Yeah, well, that's one of the short ones. Yeah,
that's beautiful, man. Like I would vote for him just on that. For me, the state is the enemy. Yeah, it's very anarcho-capitalist. It's very Rothbard. I'm a fan. Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. So, just while we're talking on that quote, it's going to be very interesting to see how exactly his next steps go, because I mean, his two big things that he's looking to actually do. I mean, obviously, an anarcho-capitalist wants to demolish the whole state. He's not going to be able to do that. Certainly not in the short to medium term. But the big things he wanted to was to get rid of the central bank, and I don't know what he means by get rid of it. I don't know if it's remove its ability to set interest rates or whatever, or if it's completely abolish it. And that sounds impossible to me because that's the nexus of where the state gets so much of its power. So we'll see whether he can do that. And the other thing is dollarizing the economy.
I have another quote by him actually, which pertains to this.
All right, well, go. What's the next quote?
The first thing we have to understand is that the central bank is a scam. It's a mechanism by which politicians cheat good people with an inflationary tax. And from then, he does actually go and start talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I did know he was big on Bitcoin, which I haven't checked. I wonder if the Bitcoin surged since his election. Do you know that?
So I read, I didn't check the prices or anything, but it said that it went up by 3% after the announcement that he got elected. I don't know if that's like like straight afterwards or within like a 24-hour period or whatever, but it went up essentially.
Yeah, I'm not super clued in on Bitcoin. Is 3% like a big jump for Bitcoin as well? Because I know Bitcoin is so variable. Like, is 3% like enormous, or is it just like that's nice?
Oh, you can do three can be anywhere 3-5%, 1% in a day. So what it is. It's the trend. It's more the trend as opposed like with the stock market or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean that's what he says there about the central bank's exactly correct. So from what I looked into, his party, like La Libertad Avanza, only has 10% of the seats in the houses. So I think from what I can tell, he's going to need to make a lot of compromises and deals to achieve anything. But it's weird. So it's different there again to what we have here. Obviously, I think it's more similar to like the US system where there's the different branches of governments and the checks and balances against each other, where the president does have some genuine power, even if they don't necessarily have control of the houses. Like you can imagine if Ron Paul had been president in 2008 or 2012, whether or not he had the Republicans in the House and the Senate, those Republicans weren't doing what Ron Paul wanted them to do, but he still could have done a lot of good as the president. So I think that it's not quite as clear cut as they only have 10%. I think having the presidency is huge, but I'm curious to see how he's going to possibly enact any of the things that he wants to enact and whether he can. And the other big question that I have looming and is the economy is so awful there, like so awful. Like they're at triple digit inflation, which is unimaginable. To the point where like, how do you even make decisions on a daily basis when you're at triple digit inflation? Like at our huge amount of inflation already, it's such a prompt to just buy things because there's no point saving. Like, how do you even do you literally just run outside and buy the first things you can find because it's that difficult to find anyone selling it? Like, I don't know. I don't even understand how that economy would operate with that sort of.
If I got anything from him, it was a fuega. So I think that's how it works.
What's a fuega?
When he's at the thing and he's taking off all the different departments, he's like, "This is a fuega." Yeah. But yeah, no, I think from what I gather, it's like the state is so bloated. That's where a lot of the spending comes from, and that's where I think, as far as from a taxation perspective, I'm not sure about inflation. But I think if the state is so bloated, you cut the state down, therefore the taxation isn't required as much. But I'm not really too versed on how central banks and inflation and stuff work. All I know is they bad, go away.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into all of that, I'm a little bit more versed into that. But my main question is, given that the economy is so bad, and given that he might not be able to make all the remedies he needs to, and even if he does, like, what's the solution to getting rid of the central bank or dollarization or whatever? When you're at that level of inflation, the cure to the inflation is a recession. Like, it's economic hardship anyway. There's all the Austrian economic libertarians, they say the same thing. They say that the recession is the cure. The bust is the cure to the excess and the mismanaged spending and the wasteful spending that was done during the boom. And so it's always hard with the game of politics. Like, he has promised these radical solutions to the problem, and they are the correct solution. But there's elections every 4 years, 3 years, who knows?
Yeah.
Like, does the public have the foresight to stand through, to sit through a recession if that's what they need to have, or do they just elect a center left next time who will just blow up and reinflate the economy again? I'm not super hopeful in that regard, because I think if he does the correct things, which I think he will try to do, it's going to take a hell of a PR team to explain, hey, these hardships are necessary. And that's what we have to have everywhere. But that's kind of one of the losses of politics, is that the good thing is not easily marketed, as long as central banks control how the economy works, and inflation and interest rates and all of that, because they can just promise a short-term better and fix things for the next year, and make everyone happy, and wasteful, and print money and all the rest of it, and then just kick the can down the road, is the expression that they continually use.
What if let's just say, like, they wake up one day, the central bank has just burnt down with all its records, and it's like, oh, turns out there isn't any currency here anymore. Like, oh, just gonna have to restart.
Oh, look at
Glad you
that.
own what you own.
We're at a central bank. Well, that's the thing. Like, does a country need to default? There's the question: will the US need to default on its debt? Probably. Like, I've been listening to a lot of Peter Schiff lately. Like, if anyone watches Peter Schiff's been predicting the doomsday forever. But all the economists of the Federal Reserve and of the state are constantly saying, well, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't need to pay off the debt. We just need to continually borrow more money, like a pyramid scheme, continually borrow enough money to pay off the interest and to spend new money, and don't worry about paying off the debt, which is insane to the way the average person perceives money. But anyway, sorry, let's continue with quotes. I'll go with a quote.
Okay,
you still got one more?
Yes, but it's the long one.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll dissect the long one with a bit more time. We haven't had any double ups yet. My ones are the ones I liked more because of how offensive he was. So,
nice.
And you'll need to pardon my language right now. It's not my words. It is Javier Milei's, and he's a respectable president of a respectable South American country. So if he's allowed to say it, I'm allowed to say it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I quote: "Shove the state in your fucking asshole, the fucking cunt of your fucking mother. You know what? I wipe my ass with the state." A poignant point.
Yep.
Well made. Well articulated.
Well, very well articulated.
I don't know what exactly we're going to analyze from this quote. I love it. I love it. I've seen the video as well of when he says it, and he's just in a room getting interviewed, clearly, and he's just like the classic, the way he's always agitated and enraged and shouting down the camera, and big arm movements, and his hair's waving all around his head. And it's just incredible that someone who said that, like, imagine there's so much fodder for the propaganda wheels to use against him. You know, like,
he said the C word. Oh, no. I've never been to a bar on a Friday night. Oh.
Yeah, how funny is it how, like, every politician will would jump on their moral high horse if someone else swears, or you know, media and journalists will jump on their moral high horses, as if the second that those doors are closed, they're not all swearing there like drunken sailors.
Well, it's like, oh, excuse me, Mr. Politician or Mrs. Politician or whatever. Did you watch Game of Thrones? Have you? I've been recently rewatching Deadwood. It's like, have you ever seen Deadwood? Oh, yes, I have. I loved that show. Oh, well, did you? Why didn't you tweet about how vulgar that was? Like,
and if anyone deserves this kind of, like, you know, you go to a sports game, and I'm sure politicians yell these kind of words at their team's players from time to time if they're not doing the right thing. Now, those players don't actually deserve these words. No one deserves shove yourself in your fucking asshole, the fucking cunt of your fucking like, that's, no one really deserves that. If the only institution that I can think of that really truly deserves that is the state, and honestly some politicians, to be honest.
And then the media as well.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
put that up to the
you're
media.
right, and the
Yeah,
media, all
yeah,
the groups that try to denigrate you for using this kind of
yeah.
language. So no, it's very telling that
Mm,
those lines alone, not just because of what they are and what he's willing to say, but what he said, and they couldn't poke holes in his persona enough to bring him down.
mm,
Like
mm.
I think, and possibly this is an argument against what we were saying earlier about Australia needs more of this sort of messaging. I think that quote, probably wouldn't.
Oh,
You don't.
I'd love it. I'd love it if bloody Gazza or Shazza from the pub just gets up and they're like, "Hey," really get up and start going like full bogan about it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't vote for them. That's the thing.
Oh,
If like a
I
really
would.
respectable libertarian candidate came onto the stage and started talking like that, I'd love it, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you'd love it. But I don't think it would. I think for some like Australians still see politics as being a little bit more serious than that, and I think I'm not saying it's a good reason, but I'm saying the media wheel would spin and run their propaganda to the point that they could get the public to convince the public not to vote for someone who talks like
Oh
that.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so
Whereas
be
clearly
on
in
ABC and be like, well, we're so much better and you're so much better because, they speak like that. Do you want to be affiliated with that filth, type of, oh yeah, that wankiness, that
yeah,
fake wankiness and yeah, yeah, yeah.
that fake wankiness that the state's survival,
Yeah.
relies on at its
Yeah.
absolute bedrock.
Gentlemanly, though we're not allowed to say gentlemanly anymore, but we're gonna say it. We're only allowed to say it at cricket games now.
um, All right, I've got another quote. It's kind of the
Yeah.
same. It's kind of the same point. You can't give these shit leftards an inch.
Mm,
You can't negotiate with leftards. You don't negotiate with trash because they'll end you. And then he goes on in the rest of the quote and explains that we've been fighting on the wrong plane for so long because the right will typically they'll value the truth and they'll give the left the benefit of the doubt whenever they're in power, and then the left will come in and kill you for your beliefs, and they'll ruin
mm,
your life, and they don't think twice about it, which I think is true. I think the most blatant example of that was throughout the pandemic when anyone who dissented, they tried to ruin their lives and careers and everything. They tried to completely destroy them, not least of which Joe Rogan, who managed to withstand the vitriol, but like any doctors or PhD whatever who would
mm,
speak up, they would try and kick them out of the whole entire medical establishment and make sure they never worked again and whatnot. They don't think twice. They don't care about ruining your life. Like
yeah,
they
yeah,
don't have that level of empathy for what they perceive to be their enemy.
mm,
Which and that quote goes on to say that Milei says, we are better than the left culturally, spiritually. We're more intelligent. We're more like he's really really confident in his faction of politics as intelligence. And he says that because of this, we win even though they are scumbag pieces of shit. I love all of that sort of rhetoric because he's so
yeah,
right,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's you can't say it in polite society, but like God, they're pieces of shit. And I'm all about it. I'm on board.
Mm.
No comment. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good to be a bit fruity, but I don't. I think he's got to be a bit more specific on it because I don't like saying the whole left. I know a lot of good people on the left and things like that. I don't think they're pieces of shit. Maybe their politics and things, but I get the idea of that sway towards it and trying to like realize these are the people that have caused this. Sometimes you've got to just generalize.
And maybe when he's saying leftards, he's not necessarily saying your average lefty. Maybe he's
Yeah.
saying the militant left. There's a lot lost
Well,
in
it's a
translation here.
translation.
Obviously,
Yeah,
I think
exactly,
potentially
exactly.
he's talking about like the left establishment and the way that
Mm,
works, and like
mm,
the activist class of the left,
yeah.
which and it's true. I do like a lot of do like. I don't like a lot of lefties' beliefs. I think they're misguided, but I think a lot of them are misguided in a completely conscientious way. Like they think they're doing the right thing, which is different to this sort of activist class, which will do whatever it can to ruin the lives of the others. So there's a distinction there, and I agree. And yeah, it's easy to just cop out and say I'm sure it's lost in translation, but I would imagine he's referring to that sort of activist class. And the media, the left in the media and the left in
well, there's a lot of things we could argue is lost in translation when it comes to him, but let's not have that conversation.
He's actually never sworn once. He's like this pious Christian dude who's never spoken out of
he's
turn.
a Catholic, so
yeah, and it's just been like it's just been twisted to make him seem, and the rest of the Western
realizes
world.
He comes and he's just like, why have you been misquoting me? I haven't been saying all these things. Just because I get angry, you think I swear.
And it just shows how like desperate for a win the West's libertarians are, that we're not even going to check whether the translations are correct. We're just like, yeah, did you hear what he said? And then he said, shove the state up your mother's cunt, and it's so good, and he won.
And you go and see, you give him a hug, and you're like, you say all that to him, and he's disgusted. He's just like, get away from me. I don't want anything to do with you.
He says, that's so ungentlemanly. How dare you? I don't know if you can lose that much in translation. He did walk into the one of his rallies with the chainsaw one time to show how he's going to chainsaw the state. That's, I mean,
well,
I think that's universal language.
Who's the company that does yellow and black? I don't know. There's a specific hardware manufacturer, and they do the yellow and black. They should do the Milei special edition, and it's like not used for people, just for the state.
And there's 2% of the population in Australia who know what that reference is and are willing to do it.
And they go out and they buy it.
Yeah, none of them need a chainsaw. You're asking me which hardware company is yellow and black, as if I know any hardware company apart from any other hardware.
Well, it's not Makita, I can tell you that. Or Ryobi's. There we go.
Cool. So
comment below if you know that. If you know that company, comment. I'm not going to fucking search it up. Comment if you know.
And tag them into our posts. We're giving them free publicity, and they should do that. Javier Milei
and Milei as well. So just get them all together. Let's get this conversation happening now.
Well, did you see? This was kind of interesting. I saw the Libertarian Party that we're involved in. Their Twitter reshared yesterday on like to celebrate the win. A year ago, they made a post about Milei rising in the polls or rising in the ranks or something, and he commented off his Twitter in response and just said thanks! ! So there's I mean, it's tenuous at best, but there was a connection at one time between the Libertarian Party here and Javier Milei in Argentina. I wonder if we can get him out here to do some speaking tours. That would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Anyone who speaks Spanish and can translate for us.
He can learn English. Matt, he's gonna have to learn English at this point. Like
if you don't learn English for fucking Tucker Carlson, you don't learn English.
All of the it's hard to overstate for anyone who's listening and isn't aware of this. Like all of the libertarians everywhere are screaming from the rooftops in joy at him winning. Like this is an enormous deal. It's unthinkable. This is unprecedented. Not only because a libertarian has never gotten this close to like the actual power. Probably Ron Paul was the previous to get kind of close in 2012 when he looked like he might get the Republican nomination and they cheated him out of it. That's probably the closest a good libertarian has come to actually being in the hot seat. So not only because of that, but because he did it with such a message. Like this is enormous. This is the biggest thing to happen to libertarianism, I think, since Elon Musk bought out Twitter. I think that was the most recent enormous scale win for liberty in kind of the last couple of years. Go on with your last quote. Let's analyze.
All right.
Let's analyze your quote.
This is I just got this because a lot of people, he's a right-wing populist, things like that. He was asked about this in an interview, and he gave this answer. First, to speak of right-wing populism, at least in Argentina, does not make sense because they label as right-wing populist those who question the existence of the state. The reality is, given Argentina's failure, instead of labeling people right-wing populists, politicians should realize they are part of the problem and not part of the solution. If I do my job badly in 6 months, I get fired from my job. These people have been failing for 40 years and they want to continue to be there. So definition of right-wing populism is debatable. Unlike other types of populism, let's say more left-wing in brackets populism, you have in brackets libertarianism a moral foundation in brackets because you want to eliminate the generalized apparatus of coercion, which is the state. So there is a moral question. What happens is that this bothers the politicians who live off the state, so they need to put a negative label on it to scare people away. For me, anyone who wants to shrink the state is a hero. Let me repeat that. For me, anyone who wants to shrink the state is a hero. ... In any place, I'm in favor of whoever fights against statism.
Yeah, that's way too highbrow for me. I preferred the ones
Okay.
about the mothers and
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
kidding. It's fantastic. That's
Oh,
good. I mean,
he replaces it by "you fucking dickhead statist dicks, go fuck yourself, you dodgy motherfuckers." There we go.
when he made that statement, his polling actually started dropping because people were
Yeah.
just like, "Oh shit, this isn't an easy to follow message I can get behind." I just wanted to call the state a piece of shit. But yeah, no, he's I mean, he's absolutely right, and I think that quote um speaks to the point that he is not just someone. And when we spoke about him last time, Max brought up the question of, um, do you think he's just saying the right things to get to the levers of power, and then he'll backpedal and get corrupted once he gets there? I think that quote shows that he has understood the very central nugget of truth of the state and libertarianism and how it all works and what the cancer at the center of all of it is. I mean, obviously he's understood it, and the fact that he can articulate it so clearly, I think, is exactly the reason why I don't doubt that he can't be corrupted. It's a different question whether he's able to actually make a difference and actually enact the changes. But I think that quote should allay anyone's fears that Javier Milei will be bought out and sold. And
Like, dare I say, another Trump?
yeah, well, that's exactly. They're labeling him, the Argentinian Trump, the Argentine Trump. Trump was nowhere near that sound on what the actual problem was. Trump said drain the swamp and then surrounded himself by the swamp in 2016. Milei is saying, systematically exactly what is wrong. It's not just a swamp. It's not just a weird analogy that makes sense to the layman. Like, he is telling you in finite detail, this is the cancer. The fact that these people you can't get rid of them, and the state grows no matter what. And the righteous people are the ones trying to shrink the state. He's got his finger exactly on the pulse. So I'm on board for. I'm a Javier Milei fan for as long as it takes the CIA to assassinate him.
Yeah.
Till that very day, I am a Javier Milei fan.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how it goes. I know even people now have just started being critical about him, but yeah, let's just see how he goes. I'm happy based off what he said. It's not like another politician where it's like, I'm promising you, as you said, the world, this kind of the world with these sayings, these day-to-day sayings. It's like, no, I'm going to break it down and be really specific about my ideology. So you at least know that's there. Whether or not, yeah, he gets corrupted or he gets assassinated or something, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, high hopes.
I think the pessimist in me thinks the far more likely outcome is that he tries to enact these things, and maybe he enacts some, and the immediate reaction of the economic behemoth that is, the whole economy of a country isn't immediately an upward tick, and he'll drop in popularity, and they'll vote him out, or they'll find some way to get rid of him, because right now he's riding high on a wave of popular support, not just because he's such a good messenger, but also things are so messed up that people are willing to try something different. How long will they be willing to try that different thing without seeing immediate results? I don't know how long the patience of the average person is.
If he can, I think if he can get the tax cuts through and people say like, wow, okay, taxes have been severely gone down, I'm willing to see this guy through. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the pushback that comes from it. And you thought we want to, people are calling him the next Trump and stuff like that. Look at what happened with Trump in the media. Look at the pushback he got. I think that's going to be 10 times worse as far as from an Argentinian perspective, which I know nothing about the Argentinian perspective, so I'm just going to assume it'll be 10 times worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. We'll have a bit of a shorter episode today. Any last thoughts before we go, or are we happy to call it there with the
I have a question.
Story? Yeah.
So Argentina gets a little bit better, things get the uptick. He gets a second term and he says, I want libertarians to come live in Argentina. Would you consider it?
There'd need to be a significant uptick for me to learn such a backward ass language as Spanish. I already know Italian, so I've already got.
You've offended like half the fucking world with that, man. Well, you know Italian, that's really simple. It's
Italian is very similar to Spanish. Actually, I probably could. Look, I'm not in a mad hurry, but I'd be much more thrilled if he inspired another state of the US to go real hardcore libertarian, and then I'd go live there. Less of a culture shock. I don't know. It's I'm sure it's tough enough to find work for an Argentinian living in Argentina, let alone some dumb Australian who's allergic to manual labor who doesn't speak the language. I don't know how much room there is for libertarian messaging.
Well, you've got if everything goes well, you've got a free market, so you can just go. I'm sure you've got open borders as well, so it's just come and go. So maybe you just go there for 6 months, see if you can find a job and then come back. I don't know. It's just interesting though if it's like the Catalonia of libertarianism instead of like anarchism or anarcho-syndicalism.
I think that one of the interesting things I saw was the New York Times obviously did a hit piece on him recently, and they like describe his kookiest ideas, and one of them is that he believes you should be allowed to sell your own organs. So if that happens, I can definitely subsist for a while in Argentina just selling off organ after organ, so that they're in a free market.
You've got one kidney you can sell. I mean, that's it. It's not like you can go without a lung.
You can sell an eye. I'm sure I could sell an eye. Sell my appendix. I don't know if anyone's really interested. I don't know if there's a hot market for appendixes, but appendices? What's the plural of appendixes?
No, anyway. An appendices is like an academic appendix, whereas
isn't appendices the plural of appendix?
No, well, I don't think you get your appendix removed. You have appendices in a book.
Yeah.
It's my understanding.
In a market of more than one appendix, is it?
I don't think we have more than one fucking appendix. Well, we're talking about like a market of appendices.
Yes, that's my point. That's the word I was looking
for.
That's
a good question. Grammar, comment below.
Perfect. All right. Before we tangent any further on, let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening. This is Collectivitis. If you like the show, leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe to us. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. You can find us wherever you want. Make sure to let us know who you are and let us know what you think of the shit that we talk, because it's always more fun to engage with you guys than just to talk into a vacuum. So without further ado, we'll catch you next time.
Take it easy. See ya.